Oh, good evening, everybody. Welcome to a very cold Vicarage Road. I think my scarf's just about big enough. I've got two pairs of socks on, I've got thermals on, and I'm utterly freezing. And I always say I'm going to keep these short, but I don't think tonight I'm going to be able to. Norwich have lost here. They've been beaten by 3-2 by Watford. Let's run through the game, and then we can go through everything else that happened. So Norwich made one change from the team that beat QPR on Saturday. Ashley Barnes dropping out with those obviously fitness-related issues that we kind of expected after he played more than we expected on Saturday. He was replaced by Adam Eder. That was the only change. Norwich take the lead in the third minute for a corner. Brilliant ball in from Gabriel Sara. Danny Bart just gets his noggin where it should be, rises above everyone else and glances a header past Ben Hamer, 1-0. Then Norwich draw a second turnover. Gary Sara again feeds the ball into Huang Yuzhou, and it's a brilliant finish from him. He's obviously going through some very personal difficulties, I think that's fair to say, but he is scoring goals at the moment. Shortly after that, he had to go off with a slight hamstring injury. Ashley Barnes then comes on. That moment that David Wagner describes as leaving Norwich City's players as a little bit shocked, which is an interesting comment. I'm not sure I've heard of a team of players be shocked before because a player picks up an injury and has to go off, but there we are. Norwich then regress. They sit in their own half. They try and contain and try and manage the game. And then there's a moment just before the two goals where I can't remember who had the shot now. Might have been Sema, might have been Kayembe. I'm sure someone will point out. Might have been neither of those. Someone had a shot that might have been Asprilla. Actually, I think it was Asprilla. Had a shot that George Long spilt, and the combination of Danny Bart and George Long prevented the ball from going into the back of the net after that. And from there, the game just flicked and switched. And from there, Watford, having 5 minutes before Christian Fashnak getting the better of Jamal Lewis, suddenly Jamal Lewis was getting the better of Christian Fashnak, and that happened utterly across the pitch, really. And Watford then get themselves back into the game. I haven't seen a replay of it. It looked in real time like a good strike from Ismail Kone. I'm not at the best angle, but there are some people who have suggested to me that George Long should have saved it. Again, I haven't watched it back. I'm just pointing that out. The second goal is so poor. Jamal Lewis gets down the left. His deflected cross is nodded home by Ratkovic or Rajovic. Him, and then it's 2-2, and I think from there everyone in that away end, 1,300 Norwich City fans, us, everyone in the home areas, kind of felt inevitable really that Watford were going to go on and I think the shot was from Jamal Lewis. Thanks, Tom. The shot was from Jamal Lewis. We'll go with that. Who looked fantastic today, by the way, but I probably won't have much time to talk about that. But everyone in this ground just knew there was an inevitability that certainly after 2, maybe even after 1, maybe some would say after 0, but definitely after 2, there was an inevitability about what was to occur. In the second half, Norwich barely got over the halfway line. They barely competed for free passes, and they had opportunities as well to really spring. And the way they were playing, they wanted to absorb pressure, they wanted to sit back, and then they wanted to spring in transition on the counter attack. And for a team that's supposed to be the strength, and that's supposed to be what it's geared up for, it doesn't do it very well. And they were really wasteful in possession, and that put themselves under constant pressure. They couldn't get out from their own half. Watford had wave and a wave of attack, but also spells of possession. But also some of those were really stodgy spells of possession. But they all contributed, and every time Norwich dropped deeper and deeper and deeper and got more and more desperate. And eventually the goal comes, corner cleared. I think it's Hoot with the volley. Long parries it. Asprilla then beats him and actually puts the ball in from the shot. Replay showed that was over the line. So all of the other shenanigans that went on thereafter is irrelevant. Norwich were poor. They were poor. Let's not beat around the bush. They were good for 12 minutes here today. And after that, they capitulated. And first half, so I'll split this. So first half, I felt not sorry for David Wagner, but I think he's a man who's taken a lot of criticism. To see your players fold in the way that the players on the pitch folded, it's really disappointing to see that. A group who's supposed to be built on experience and because of their intangible qualities, because of their mental capabilities, because of their character, and all of those eroded away really in 3 first half minutes when you let Watford back into the game. And what is so frustrating about that period is they were 2-0 up. they were, I wouldn't say they were on top, but they were certainly looking effective going forward when they had it. They scored 2 really low percentile goals in terms of the metrics, but fine, they're 2-0 up. You're in a comfortable position. What you cannot then do is let your opponent back into the game relatively quickly. And that's exactly what they did. With the home crowd turning, with some players in that Watford side not looking like they could string 5 passes together, you then give away a shot, then you give away a goal, then you give away another goal, and then all the hard work that you've built up to has gone. And from that point, they just looked like a collective kind of sighing and just kind of going through the motions until they were beat. And that is a really concerning thing that I think we've witnessed here tonight. And I was quite critical after Saturday's win over QPR because of the approach and because long term, I don't think it's a way that brings you success long term. You win a game as that proved, but then you face a side who have more quality, and you're not difficult to break down. And by the way, I don't think they were that difficult to break down on Saturday. I thought they were playing a side that just struggled with it for the reasons of their own, albeit they scored 4 goals tonight. So what I'm saying is that first half, I think if you're David Wagner, I think you're looking at the players, shrugging your shoulders, going, "What has happened here?" And then you're going for half time. But what is not acceptable is the approach in the second half, which was Norwich City clinging on for a point desperately. And it just feels to me, and I said this on Saturday as well, it feels like a team that's living result by a result to result. It feels like a team on life support. There's no grand plan here. There's no. So all season I've kind of looked at it and I've gone into games and I go, right, I really want to see how Norwich are going to control games. And I think there's a little bit of a myth that associates control with possession always. It doesn't. You can control games and not have possession. Norwich do not control games at all, with or without the ball. They have no control of matches, which is why this kind of thing happens. They get themselves 2-0 up and then they concede 3. And when you combine that lack of control with really poor defensive play, positioning, and that's as a team, and really, really poor individual performances, you get what we got tonight, which is a really turgid display. And I just don't know how this rut changes without something external changing. And I've said this before, because everyone will have heard the feelings from the away end. Hats off to all of you absolute heroes who are out there today in what is horrendously cold weather and a Tuesday night and on TV, and Norwich playing the way they're playing. I don't think anyone would have blamed you for staying at home, but everyone knows their feelings at the moment. And so when you win 2 games, but also in the manner that Norwich won them, and then you come here, you kind of go back to square one. And that's the difficulty now that they have, because they're playing like a team that's living result by result and just trying desperately to get through games. And that is not a way that they're going to have success this season. And I think that proves when you come to places like this and play teams with more quality. And you're poor in possession, you're poor out of possession, and you're poor in transition. All phases, really, of this game, Norwich City were poor in and struggled in. And that's a real worry. And I think the wins have kind of masked a lot of the issues that have been around this Norwich team for a long time and haven't been addressed, in terms of the way they defend, in terms of the way they attack at points. And I just think the options that are being presented with Norwich fans is either we defend and we don't concede and we have 1 shot on target, or we have absolute chaos. There's a lot of gauges in between there where coaches can find and live quite happily. And at the moment, Norwich City, for whatever reason, be it head coach, be it coaching team, be it players, be it quality, be it whatever, they cannot find that sweet spot of just being able to be good out, or get a perfect balance between keeping goals out at one end and not at the other. And that's a major concern. And I'm kind of stood here going, I don't really know what more anyone has to see of this, because Norwich are meandering. And I think this is kind of what it will be now. They'll win a couple, they'll lose, and they'll finish mid-table if this course isn't altered. And look, maybe that's the quality of their squad, but there's no consistency of thought here is what I'm saying. And I said at the weekend, there's this massive contradiction between how Norwich City are playing and how new sporting director Ben Napper has suggested ideologically he wants the team to look. And And I know he is so big on control. He wants the team to have control, and they just don't have any at this moment in time. And it's becoming very difficult for them to find consistency because there's no consistency of thought. There's no consistent, clear approach into what they're doing. They're lurching. They're trying to be different things, and they're not doing anything particularly well. And they're just in a little bit of a rut. Every aspect of their performance on the pitch is in a little bit of a rut, and that is epitomised by tonight when, 2-0 up. It should be a game really that Norwich see out with confidence, and they see out with the experience that they have in this group, and they didn't, and they don't, and that's partly because of their character. And the first half, I think that 3-minute spell is completely down to character, but it's also down to quality, and it's also down to tactical decisions and coaching decisions, i.e. Not making changes in wide areas when that was apparent for the majority of the contest that it needed to happen, because they were getting completely dominated on the left-hand side all night, and they were posing no quality on the other flank. And you've got players there, Borja Sainz, who hasn't started a game of football for Norwich City, but also I think what I found bizarre, right, was the two substitutions that David Wagner made midway through the second half. Took Adam Eder off, brought Liam Gibbs on. Just bizarre. But also took Stacey off and brought Kellen Fisher on, right? Which is fine as a double pair of substitutions. But I was kind of sat there and I turned to the guys, and I said, well, what happens if Norwich concede here? Because they've just taken off their outlet, and then you're kind of left with someone playing up front who's not a striker, who's playing defensive midfield a year ago, and someone who's been out for a long period of time and isn't a striker who stretches play. He's been playing as a bit deeper and does a very different role. And we saw that. And I think there was a damning indictment. Norwich were trying to counter-attack, and it was Ashley Barnes trying, and this is not a criticism on the players involved, by the way, but Ashley Barnes is trying to bring the ball up the pitch, and you've got Liam Gibbs trying to make a run in behind. It's bonkers, really, that you've got someone there who signed a 5-year deal and is trying to play as a number 9. It's pretty desperate stuff, really. And I just despair, really, and I kind of wonder how long this is going to go on for, because we can talk about quality, and that's fine. This Norwich squad doesn't have much of it, and that's I think we can all see that now. We've got enough evidence for our eyes, with numbers, with statistics, to see that this is not a group of players that is going to finish maybe even in the top half, let alone in the top 6. But what they can do is have a coherent plan and a clear identity and a clear approach as to how they are going to approach football matches. And at this moment in time, they don't. And yes, always there's mitigation and there's injuries, but actually we've seen Ashley Barnes come back, and yes, it's early, but he's been unable to affect it. I know there's been focus on George Long tonight. Angus Gunn will come back. Angus Gunn will concede goals because of the defensive structure in front of him. Josh Sargent has been injured, but Josh Sargent is going to struggle to score enough goals because of the rate that Norwich City are conceding at this moment in time. So none of those are fixes for this. It has to be structural and it has to change. And one thing I would say is the approach has changed. Norwich City are trying to be more pragmatic. They're trying to be defensive. I get it. I get why they do it. I get the theory behind that. But you turn the tap off at one end, and often you can impact what you do higher up the pitch. And I think we saw that a bit tonight. The emphasis, and they're so in their heads about trying to tighten spaces and be compact and be solid, that they got the ball and it was like a hot potato, and they were terrified of having it, and they didn't know what to do, and they looked petrified of breaking out of the structure that they were set to be in. And that's a really problematic situation when you come to that, I think. And of course, within that, there's character and there's mentality and there's responsibility and onus on the players that they have to take, of course. But primarily, it comes down to structures, and it comes down to coaching, and it comes down to a consistency of thought, as I said. And I don't see it running through this Norwich City side. And I think you could probably stretch that a little bit wider and to say throughout the club at this moment in time. And that's what's so difficult, and that is why we will be here again. Norwich may well win on Sunday. They may well be able to shut a team out for 90 minutes. On the evidence of tonight, I don't think that's capable. They're capable of doing that against a team that is better attacking than the second worst team in the division. But they might do that. But we will be here again. and it's just grim, I think. And I speak to Norwich fans a lot, and the message that I get, and I can see a lot of the comments now, is this point around enjoyment. There's just not a lot of enjoyment around this. Nobody wants to travel on a Tuesday night to pay money to watch Norwich City set up in the way that they set up. There needs to be some big picture thinking here, and there needs to be some synergy, I guess, and some. I keep using the word consistency of thought. There needs to be some now planning, and there needs to be an idea of how this shapes. And I think what's difficult for David Wagner is the expectations, where the fan mood is, but also I think it's really difficult because he's wedded himself to what is a really experienced group of players. He wanted Norwich City's team to look like this. He felt it needed to look like this. I think they've strayed too much, and I said that in the summer, to experience, and I felt they looked old again tonight at points. And in a year, my fear is, do I see this Norwich City team getting better? I'm not sure I do. Not with everything how it is at the moment. So you have to try and change that. And I don't think Norwich City will get relegated. I've said that quite consistently, and I think the last two games have shown that there's enough. And actually, the opening 12 minutes, there's enough quality in this group that they will grind out enough results between now and the end of the season. But they're not going to be great. And that is why ultimately I think when you look ahead and you look to the future, this isn't getting better, and it's a diagnosis that is exactly the same as it was a month ago, and it will be exactly the same in a month if there's no change made. And that's why I'm probably stood here tonight going, I'm not really quite sure what more Ben Napper needs to see, and what the powers that be needs to see. Mark Attanasio was here tonight as well ahead of the AGM, so. Yeah, there we go. Really, really difficult night. It could have been so different. Frustrated. I'm sure the fans are angry and rightly so, because there's so little beyond Gabriel Sara really to cling on to at this moment in time. And I just think this is what Norwich City are, and that's a really sad indictment on the football club and maybe the strategic direction that is headed in the last 3 or 4 years in terms of on the pitch. So. There we go. Yeah, sorry, that was a bit bleak. I'm freezing cold, so I'm going to head home and get the heater on in the car. Thank you very much for watching, and plenty more analysis, reaction. You can read David Wagner's quotes. We'll have some Ashley Barnes quotes as well up in the morning. And from Vicarage Road, which I'll spin round and give you a night. Oh dear, no, that's not right. There we go. There's Vicarage Road. I'll say good night to you all. Thank you very much for watching. See you soon.